to 4:30 p.m. Extended hours on Wednesdays and Saturdays by appointment. Lewis Michaels Coins and Jewelry.
Mostly sunny skies today with a high of 82 degrees and a breeze from the south. Tonight, a 50% chance of showers and maybe even thunderstorms. Cloudy skies, overnight low of 59. Sunday's weather, cloudy, high near 73, a 30% chance of a shower. Sunday night, 70% chance of showers. Monday, 60% chance of showers, cloudy skies, and 59. Tuesday, 64 degrees and showers, 80% chance Tuesday. Wednesday, showers are likely in the morning, partly sunny rest of the day, 72 degrees. Thursday, partly sunny and 68, and on Friday, mostly sunny skies and a high near 65 degrees.
And currently outside the Navigant Credit Union Broadcasting Studio at the corner of Park Avenue and Kennedy Street, it's about 68 degrees, partly cloudy. Welcome to the Cheap Seats with Pat and Kevin. Kevin is out today, but today we're going to be joined by my good friend Jake Marcus. So before we get Jake in here, let's just jump into the local sports. At the halfway point of the round, high school baseball season, Cumberland sits in third place in Division I with a 9-3 record, behind Bishop Hendricken and South Kingstown. In Division II, Burrowville sits in second place with an 8-4 record, behind North Providence. And in D3, Woonsocket leads the way with a 12-3 record. URI, with their 8-3 win over Fordham, has moved into a tie for first place with George Mason. Both teams with 15-7 conference records. URI will continue their series at Fordham today at 2 p.m. and tomorrow at 12. Both games you can be viewed on ESPN+. 9 games left in the season for URI before the A-10 tournament, which begins on May 20th to the 24th in Tyson, Virginia. Over at Bryant, the Bulldogs currently riding a 6-game win streak to move into first place with an 11-5 conference record. In second place is Maine with a 12-7 record. Bryant took care of Maine yesterday by a score of 5-3. They have 2 more games with each other on campus at Bryant today and tomorrow, both games at 1. The P Bruins were topped by the Charlotte Checkers 5-1 in a game 1 of the best of 5 Atlantic Division semifinal series on Friday night at the Amica Mutual Pavilion. Forward Oliver Wallstrom scored the lone goal for Providence in the opening frame. The P Bruins host the Charlotte Checkers for Game 2 of the best of 5 second round series on Sunday, May 4th at the AMP. Puck drop is set for 7:05. In Worcester, the Woosox snapped a 5-game losing streak by taking the last 2 against Toledo. Woosox are home today at 4:05 and tomorrow at 1:05. After the next time you can see the Woosox at Polar Park, that'll be Tuesday, May 20th. Marcelo Meyer and Roman Anthony watch continues. Meyer, through 26 games, continues to lead the team with 7 home runs, 34 RBIs, while hitting .262 with a .312 OBP. Roman Anthony, through 27 games, is second on the team with 5 home runs. He now has 14 RBIs. He's hitting .292 while working 22 walks with a .417 on-base percentage. Both players are striking out a bit. Meyer with 22 Ks in 26 games, while Anthony with 26 in 27 games. Defensively, just 2 errors from Mayer and 89 chances, playing mostly shortstop, a little second base, and a little third as well. In 38 chances, playing all 3 outfield positions, Anthony has not made an error in the outfield. He's also been the DH for 10 games due to an earlier shoulder injury. And again, big day today. Rhode Island FC opens up their inaugural debut at the Centreville Bank Stadium in Pawtucket. They will face San Antonio FC, who sit first in the West. They come in with a 5-win, no draws, 2 losses record, coming off of a 1-0 win over Phoenix Rising FC in the U.S. Cup, which is the Jägermeister Cup now. RIFC comes in off a 4-1 win over Westchester in their first game of the Jägermeister Cup. Just a little bit of notes for that game. Get there early. Game starts at 4 o'clock. The parking lots open at 1. The gates open at 2, but get over there early if you can. Traffic's going to be a little bit different over there. It's a new stadium. It's sold out. 10,500 plus will be in attendance. So if you go into the game, get out there early. Go on to RhodeIslandFC.com to get your parking. Prepaid parking only. You cannot pay at the game. So check them out. I'll be over there today covering the game. Looking forward to their inaugural season. The stadium looks great, so looking forward to getting in there today. So that's it on the local scene. When we come back, we will be joined by Jake Marcus, my good friend, right after these messages.
ON Radio.
The latest Buick and GMC models are available at Tasca Buick GMC in Woonsocket. Buick Encore, Envision, Enclave, and Envista are on the lot waiting for you to take one for a test drive. New GMC crossovers, SUVs, as well as trucks and vans are also available. Thinking of a pre-owned vehicle? Tasca Buick GMC has more than 900 in stock, many under $15,000. Visit online, TascaBuickGMC.com, or stop into 55 Fortin Drive, Woonsocket. Tasca Buick GMC, you will be satisfied. And remember, there are no tariffs on the vehicles in stock at Tasca Buick GMC.
When disaster strikes, trust the experts at Service Master by Gilmore. From water and fire restoration to mold remediation and emergency cleanup, we've been restoring peace of mind for over 40 years, now proudly serving all areas, including our newest service location in Rhode Island. No job is too big or too small. Day or night, we're here for you. Call Service Master by Gilmore at 1-800-783-0552 or visit us at the web at www.svmgilmore.com. Restoration done right every time.
The world-class distributor of all things electrical is Electrical Wholesalers. They are a full-service electrical distributor with branches throughout Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. Locally, they're at 113 Clinton Street next to KFC here in Woonsocket, with other locations in Cranston and Franklin, Massachusetts. Electrical Wholesalers provides the highest quality service to electrical contractors as well as residential, commercial, and industrial customers. Electrical Wholesalers is open Monday through Friday, 7 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. Visit ew-ne.com. Electrical Wholesalers.
Don't look now, but spring is right around the corner. Get out those golf clubs and head over to Lewis Quistit Golf Club, located right in the city of North Providence. Lewis Quistit offers a stunning 9-hole course designed by U.S. Open champion Ken Venturi. Whether you're looking for a fun, challenging round of golf or just a relaxing day surrounded by rolling hills, oak trees, natural wetlands, this is the perfect spot. With tee times available 7 days a week, fantastic court conditions, and a welcoming atmosphere both for members and the public, Lewis Quistit is the place to be. And after you're around, don't miss out on great food and drinks at the Pub on One, complete with a scenic golf course view. Contact Lewis Quistit Golf Club at www.lewisquisitgc.com or by calling 401-353-1620.
It's the worldwide sound of ON Radio.
And welcome back. Joined here with my good friend Jake Marcus. Jake,
Excited to be here.
there you go.
Yeah.
You're on the air.
Yeah.
Little bit of background on Jake. I've known Jake. I don't know. I've known your dad for probably 17 years. I've known you for quite some time, but really got to know you over the last probably 6 or 7 years. So, Jake and I do some business together. Jake's an attorney in his real life, but he's a huge, huge New England sports fan. Season ticket holder, Patriots.
Mm-hmm. Patriots season ticket holder. Wearing the Miami Hurricanes. I lived in Miami for a bit, so
Yep.
yeah.
And then my biggest memory of you, I just mentioned it to you before we came back on, was so Jake is a runner. I don't know if you run anymore, but you used to be a runner.
Trying to.
And he used to raise money for Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which I think your dad suffers from that.
Yep.
So I know you ran 5Ks, half marathons.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you run Boston?
So I ran Boston 3 times. I've done 17 marathons. It's been a bit of a hiatus, but hoping
right.
to get back into it this year. So
Yeah.
but
And I told Jake my biggest memory, and it probably was 2015 maybe.
that was I think it was the 2015 marathon.
So Jake is obviously a good runner because I think you qualified for it on your own.
Yeah.
Which put you up into one of the front
Exactly.
waves.
So the way the marathon's set up is you can kind of, you can either run for charity, where you have to raise a ton of money, or qualify, and that keeps looking like it's getting faster and faster. But I was lucky enough to get a quick enough time, so I was in Corral 1, right behind the leaders.
Yep.
And I guess if you want to say the memory.
Yeah. So my
what I ended up
memory,
doing.
I remember. I think your dad was at Capitol Grill
That's correct.
in Copley
yeah.
Square,
Yep.
which is basically right at the finish line.
Yep.
And I remember you ran out. So these guys, the elites, are running 4.5 minute miles. Maybe even less than that.
So that year they set it was the fastest first mile that I think they ran like a 4:28 first mile.
So they're out there. You sprint up to the front, basically sprint up with the elite runners.
Yeah.
And you got on the broadcast.
Yep.
With the Crohn's and colitis shirt and bib and all that stuff. So I
bright
thought,
orange shirt. I stuck out like a sore thumb too.
Yeah. Now, did that affect the rest of the marathon because you came out so quick, or were you able to?
I ran with them for I think the first half mile. My saving grace being that the first mile's mostly downhill
right.
in Hopkinton, but still, I mean, those guys. I had to, for one, they go out about 10 seconds before our corral, so I had to sprint to get, not only to catch up to them, but sprint to actually like get them with the 10-second delay.
Right.
So catch them, and then keep up with them, and then try to get right behind the there's like a van that's in front.
Right, with the broadcast, right? The cameras.
And that's taping it,
See.
so I'm like trying to get front and center,
and then you had to dial it back in and figure out like, all right, now I got to run another 25 miles, and
exactly.
So that was a cool memory for me.
Yeah.
We've become pretty good friends over the last few years. I know you're a huge sports guy.
Oh, yeah.
I was able to go to the Celtics game, and we exchanged some texts on that, and you were all over it. Like, I think they got this, and I think you said 5.
I think I said 5. I mean, I kind of expect I knew that Bonchero and Wagner, they would be
that was
tough.
it. Yeah, that's it. They said they're going to go for their 60, and you got to hold everyone else in check, which they did. So
yeah.
And then you're a huge U guy, right? University of Miami. I wasn't following you on Twitter or X, whatever they call it these days, but I am now, and I was scrolling through last night just seeing the amount of information you have, which is pretty impressive.
Oh,
so
thank you.
Anytime you want to come on, you're more than welcome.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
So let's get into, let's touch on the Red Sox. So the Red Sox lose a couple tough games up in Toronto.
Those
blown, basically up 6-0. Toronto comes back. They blow it, and then they lose the next game again. I think it's Slayton comes in, and he just blows it. Again, so you lose 2 tough games. They bounce back last night at home against Minnesota, but certainly a significant injury to Tristan Casas. We don't have too many details, but anytime you see a guy get carted off a baseball field, and I know Cora had mentioned that it was a significant injury. So it sounds to me like he's going to be out. I mean, he was out a significant amount of time for some rib issues last year. So I can imagine, unfortunately, it looks like he might be. He's out for the extended period. It could be a season ending. So now we got to look to see, what are they going to do? Do they? I want to say Breslow came out just the other day saying that Roman Anthony would not play first. Maybe that changes things. Do they have a different discussion now with Devers and say, hey, we want you to fill in at first because of this injury, and then they can bring up Anthony and slide him into DH, or one of those guys. I think Anthony's proved himself a little bit more than Mayer. Mayer obviously has had injuries the last couple of years, so I think he needs a little bit more time to develop. But Mayer, I mean, he's pretty impressive, and he's accomplished, I think, everything he's going to at the AAA level.
It's interesting because Anthony. I mean, he's arguably, you have Campbell go down this week too,
right?
Which is not ideal.
Nope.
But Anthony being arguably, and first of all, I mean, thoughts to Casas, whatever you got to say about him.
Yeah,
he's had a tough couple years. He's up and down in the media.
Yeah, he's his own. He certainly has his own personality.
He's unique,
but you never want to see a guy get this type of injury. And it looked pretty. I didn't see it live. I knew he came out, and I'm like, oh, maybe they're like trying to shuffle it around a little bit.
Yeah.
And then after the game, I watched it. I'm like, oh,
it did not look.
That
good.
didn't look good.
That's a bad knee injury. It looks like. And I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV, or attorney on TV.
This is true. This is
No,
true.
But yeah, it didn't look good, and I mean, a good point by you. Like it should make room for Anthony.
You would think.
He's got to come up at some point. I don't like the service time thing. I get the excuse there, but this guy's a rookie of the year caliber player.
Yeah.
You got to bring him up.
And if anyone is on that, I mean, he's basically, number one and number 2 in all of Major League Baseball, right, in terms of prospects. So.
Yeah, and then Mayer top 10 as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
I think he had an injury too this week too, which isn't great time. It seems like the attrition right now. It's only a month into the season. You can't be having that much. So
Right. So, it'd be interesting to see where they go. They got Walker Buehler's. He's on the 15-day injured reserve list with some shoulder issues, so got to keep an eye on him. But they're in second place in the AL East. I think nobody's really playing consistent baseball. I mean, essentially they're all a game or two over 500.
right, yeah, I was looking the other day, and it was before the two really tough loss. The two losses to the Blue Jays as well were challenging because you have Whitlock, who's usually rock solid. He's the long relief guy, does amazing. You have Crochet, who has not gotten the run support so far, and his starts for whatever reason. It's the same. Chris Sale when he his first year, he had like a below 1 ERA and had like 5 losses and 1 win. And it was like it was terrible, and it seems like it's history repeating itself. But those 2 losses were tough, and then the injuries kind of mounting. But then you have Slayton get injured. But before that,
Well,
beginning
you
of
got
this,
Hawk came in and pitched.
He did
He
great,
pitched the
yeah.
lights out the other night, and then they just can't.
Slayton, who's probably you got Chapman. Hendricks hasn't really gotten up to speed
Bayo pitched. He looked pretty good last night. He threw over 100 pitches, threw 6 in a third, so they took him out. But his fastball is electric. He has great movement on his secondary pitches. So
Even Giolito, who I thought I was kind of, I had some cause.
Yeah, you don't know.
He didn't play really that well in his rehab start.
Right.
So. But you look at the beginning of this week, we were half a game out of first place in the entire AL. The Red Sox were half a game out of it in the entire AL, and it's like, all right, they're still not out of it.
No.
But-
Yeah, and I think it's going to be like that all year. There's nobody really sticking out. Detroit has been playing really well, but again, that's they playing in that division where they're gonna somebody's gonna separate themselves from the rest of that division. Same thing in the West.
Right.
It's like Seattle or Houston. One of those teams, right?
Yeah. And the East is interesting because, of course, it's
like dog eat dog. They all beat up on each other, and
I'm surprised the Orioles are playing so horribly.
yeah. What you don't want to see happen is you beat those teams, the Tampas, the Blue Jays, theoretically, but then you're losing to the Seattles, the the Angels, like those teams. It's like you got to win all those games.
Yeah.
The White Sox.
Right.
The White Sox have, I don't know what they have now, maybe 5 wins.
Right.
Like 3 of them against the Red Sox.
And every game was close in that series.
Yeah.
Too. And it's it's when you're the White Sox were the laughing stock coming into this season, and when you're that close, it's not ideal. So
Right. So we'll see what happens. They're playing good baseball. They went through a stretch where they were striking out a lot. Now they're last night they were up 3-1 going into the bottom of the 8th. They put up. It was good to see them kind of extend that lead.
Right.
Instead of sitting back and then you don't know what's going to happen. Who's coming in? Are they going to But I was surprised to see Slayton come back in after he blew that first game.
Right.
He comes back in the second game, and I just said he didn't look right in the first game. Everything was high. It's like, well, you're going to walk the bases, right? You're looking for a double play ball, and everything's high. So something was off. Then they bring him back the next night, and it's like the same thing.
Right. Yeah, the trustometer on the bullpen. This was the problem last year. It was and I do feel like we're in a better spot this year.
Sure.
You got Slayton. You got even Chapman has been rock solid so far. Hendricks has been. He's got to get up to speed, and
They got this kid Guerrero that they brought up, who's
Yep.
hitting 100, and I think he's like lights out so far. And I think he's pitched 3 or 4 appearances, and he's basically striking out two guys every inning. So which is good to see. So
they're in a good spot, all things considered.
yeah,
But it's still, you just don't want to see them kind of dwindle away, And the weird, one of the things I don't know if you've touched on it in the show, but is what's going on. The fielding has not been helping out.
Yeah, that's certainly been. I think it's less of an issue than it was last year, but it's still somewhat of an issue. You got and Bregman has had a couple errors, which you're going to make errors, and I'm sure he'll go a long stretch without making any. But he's had a few, and you had Abreu made that. I don't think they got an error, but certainly a play he should have made in that first game against Toronto that they blew. I believe it was that basically got runners out, runners scored, and everyone moved up, and so yeah, they gotta certainly establish themselves on the defensive end a little bit more. And it always seems like it's like when that happens, the bats aren't right. They can't get any hits. They have 4 errors. It's like the perfect formula for like disaster.
It causes issues because then the pitch counts up for the pitchers. It's it kind of just it hurts the whole momentum. And I think they were either last or second to last behind the Athletics, or in front of the Athletics for most errors in the league, and that's not
where you want to be.
Yeah,
no.
Cora being a guy who probably stayed in the league because of his fielding, you'd think would. I don't want to point at coaching. I don't know. It's more position by position.
Yeah, we have a caller that likes to point to coaching and would rather see Cora gone. He didn't want him to resign. He didn't want them to resign him. I don't. I'm always a guy that says, well, who you getting? Right. Same thing. Like NHL, right? Mm-hmm. You get a guy, Mike Sullivan, who gets fired by the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yeah. Then the Rangers, who basically went first to not worst, but because we were pretty bad. But and then they signed Mike Sullivan a week later to the highest paid coaching contract in the NHL. It's like, now I'm not saying it was all Mike Sullivan's fault in Pittsburgh, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Who do you get to replace Cora if he's not the guy?
That's the thing.
That's everyone's like, well, just put Veritek in there. It's like, I'm pretty sure Veritek probably doesn't want to be a manager. I think he's probably where he wants to be. I just want to be a consultant. I'll work with the catchers and the pitchers. That's it.
Right.
Like I don't.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I think you look at the landscape of what's out there, and it's like you're not just gonna. I mean, you can make an analogy to football. It's Patriots now have very well, hopefully, really optimistic about that working out, but they, for whatever reason, they picked Mayo, and that wasn't a good choice. But yeah, I mean, you look at what's out there, you see who was leading the Bears last year, you see who's coaching some of these teams, and it's like, all right, let's reel it back in. The grass is not always greener. Let's stick with what we have for now, and maybe
everyone wants to get that next young stud, right? Coach off some coaching tree, and it's like, that's a huge gamble.
It is, yeah.
Right? When you're it's one thing if you're doing that in college, like, hey, let's get this young guy, ran this offense for them, and they put up, but NFL, it's like, it's either hit or it's, and you're talking big money too. Like these guys and these owners don't want to eat that. And look at Kraft.
Right.
It's a reason why he probably signed Mayo, because it was hey, we're going to pay you this. We have an out if we want it, because we're paying this guy and this guy and this guy still. And if you're changing all these coaches, and we're paying all them,
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll check in on the Celtics, and then we'll segue over to the Patriots. You're listening to the Cheap Seats with Pat and Kevin on WOON.
ON Radio.
When you visit their website at MichaudAutobody.com, you'll see some very interesting information, including frequently asked questions about coverage if you're not at fault, regulations about replacement cost, or having to visit an insurer's claim center. Know the law and your rights. You'll also see a photo gallery of Michaud's extra clean facility. It has to be to accommodate the requirements of sensitive paint textures and applications. Michaud's Auto Body is a gold-class repair facility located at 430 Privilege Street, Woonsocket, 769-1983.
Woonsocket Door Sales, a fourth-generation family business, has served southern New England since 1935. They can handle all types of projects from the simpler residential installations to more complex commercial projects, always concerned with infrastructure and framework for the perfect fit. They even install doors for fire stations and medical facilities. Installation and repair. Woonsocket Door Sales, 767-3448. They'll remove and dispose the old doors. Woonsocket Door Sales, 767-3448.
When you're ill and need same-day care, remember North Smithfield Urgent Care and Lincoln Urgent Care for affordable and accessible care. You'll always be seen by a board-certified physician who will assess the problem and make you feel safe and reassured. Check their websites for convenient patient and medical forms, which you may fill out before the visit. North Smithfield Urgent Care, 594 Great Road, North Smithfield, 768-3400. And Lincoln Urgent Care, 2 Wake Robin Road, Lincoln, 333-9595.
The latest Buick and GMC models are available at Tasca Buick GMC in Woonsocket. Buick Encore, Envision, Enclave, and Envista are on the lot waiting for you to take one for a test drive. New GMC crossovers, SUVs, as well as trucks and vans are also available. Thinking of a pre-owned vehicle? Tasca Buick GMC has more than 900 in stock, many under $15,000. Visit online, TascaBuickGMC.com, or stop into 55 Fortin Drive, Woonsocket. Tasca Buick GMC, you will be satisfied. And remember, there are no tariffs on the vehicles in stock at Tasca Buick GMC.
And welcome back to the Cheap Seats with Pat and Kevin. I am joined by Jake Marcus. Our phone lines are open, so you can call in if you want to ask a question. 401-766-1240. That's the call-in line. We're going to jump over the Celtics. We touched briefly on it, round one. So they take Orlando goes 5, which is, essentially where I thought it would end up being, even with Tatum getting injured and obviously a physical series, right? But, basically the formula was, hold their 2 studs to, whatever they're going to score, 60, which is on average what they probably, 55 to 60 points. And they didn't have any real third option. So,
yeah, I think obviously the Celtics have the better depth.
Yeah.
Brown and Tatum are obviously better than Banchero and Wagner right now. I mean, those guys are going to be absolute studs. I see a young Tatum and Banchero a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's just like their stories are so similar too. The arc for them to get to the NBA, their styles are pretty similar. Both were like Duke one and dones, and then top 3 picks.
Yeah.
Tatum arguably should have been the 1 pick that year. Banchero did what Tatum should have had done to him.
We'll take it.
Yeah. I can't believe that the Sixers and Lakers let that happen. But hey, we'll take it absolutely. My problem is I just think it reminds me of last year with the Pacers series. They played down a little bit.
Right.
Every game was pretty close besides the final. Well, the final game until halftime was a 1-point game.
Right.
And then they
kind of
blew the doors off them.
Yeah.
But, I just want to see them show a little more conviction in the next series. It's the Knicks. They should be able to. I think that should go 5.
Yeah, I mean, they've dominated the Knicks all season, 4-0. I think they had one relatively close game, but the rest of them were pretty much blowouts.
Right.
I think the one close game I was at, I think it was the second to last game that they played them. But, again, I don't see it going 7. I could see it going 5 again. I'd like to see the Celtics get a little bit more consistent play from, Tatum comes in, he puts up 35, but then Brown kind of hangs down. I mean, obviously there's going to be more opportunities when Tatum's taking them, but Porzingis seems to me to be the difference maker in terms of, like, he has to stay on the floor and be healthy.
Right.
And I think they knew that all along, right? We don't have to rush him back. We don't have to play him all season. He probably played maybe a third of the season.
Right.
Games-wise, I'll take it.
I'll take that all day. I mean, you look at last year, he played his career high or close to it.
Yeah.
And
he broke down.
And yeah, that's troubling. You want him to be healthy in the playoffs. You want, the role players, Pritchard, you want him to become, great story of him. He's been absolutely amazing.
And then I think the X factor that none of these other teams have are the Whites, the Holiday. At any point in time, those guys can go for 25.
And hopefully
And then-
Holiday's healthy too.
Yeah, and then Pritchard.
Right.
And I mean, and then you can go on. I mean, Pritchard seems to be the guy that comes off the bench and lights a spark, and if he's on, he's on. If he's off, not quite the case. But I don't see it going. I think it'll go 5, if that. The Knicks struggled with Detroit, although Detroit played much better in the second half of the season. They're again another young, up and coming team.
Yeah. Pistons are. They're a promising young team. I was more. I didn't want to play the Pistons as much as I thought the Knicks were going to be the easier opponent, and I think it should be
Yeah.
a 5-game series. I think Thibodeau's not a great head coach. He was nice when he was here,
Right.
coaching Kevin Garnett and Pearson. Yeah,
Right, when he had, and he's more of a defensive guy, but in the playoffs you still have to be able to, you can't rely on one guy to score 40
right.
Every night, and no one else is there to support.
They looked fatigued
And I
too.
think
yeah.
it's a much better matchup against the Knicks. I think Detroit brings a little bit more issues, and I think I wouldn't say we struggled against them this season, but
Right.
but they gave us a test. It wasn't straight. I think we have a caller, so let's see if I can get the caller. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, Moose, how are you?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. I'm fine. How about yourself, Kevin?
It's Patrick. Kevin's off today.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Hi, Pat.
How are you?
I'm okay. I don't know who's in studio with you, but I heard another voice, so good morning to that gentleman.
That's my good friend Jake Marcus,
Okay. Hey,
sports guru.
Good morning.
Oh, I hear you. I'm in the same boat, so to speak. I had sent that. I want to share this with you quickly and other callers as well, or listeners. I had sent an email to Kevin earlier in the week about the NBA, and I'd like to read it to you briefly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I brought this up before. Now, the officials have no control, and furthermore, they don't know how to take control. The games have turned out to be a boxing match.
Mhm.
These backyard tantrums on almost every play are ridiculous. Call the tees and throw the guys out, too. Here it is. If I can't beat you with talent, I'll punch you out and get away with it.
Yeah, it's
Is
certainly
Is this what this game has become?
it's I call it the youth sports, right? Phenomenon. Like, you got coaches who coach like, hey, they can't call every foul, so foul, right? Because they're not going to call every foul.
Right.
But in the NBA, what happens is if you don't call it, you lose control,
There it is.
and
There's
then
the
you
control
don't
thing.
you can't get that control back in place
You
after
need
that.
to take control immediately. Immediately. And say, listen, you bozos, what do you think this is? All right? I'm telling you right now, if you don't play a clean game, and I'll call a foul on you, and if you keep it up, I'll call a technical foul, then you're gone.
Yeah, I mean, some of these.
Explain that to the coach. And before the game, each and every game, I'm telling you, coach, and you coach, you tell your players to play the game with dignity instead of hacking everybody and swearing
Right.
at every single play. It's ridiculous how much the foul language that they use. Again, that's on the officials, Pat.
Yeah,
That's on the officials.
no doubt. I think it's tough once you let it go. It's tough to rein it in.
Been like that all year, Pat.
Yeah,
like
and that's
that all
unfortunately we know the NBA, the players run the league.
Oh, yeah.
They're not. These officials don't want to step on anyone's toes.
And
the
you know who
players,
it all started with? You know who this all started with?
LeBron.
Of course. Of course.
How'd I
You know
guess?
what, Pat? He got just what he deserved for trying to pull that shady deal that he pulled off with Dokic in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
It backfired. The Lakers are out, and well, you got what you deserved.
Yeah.
To pull the wool over the ownership of the Lakers, and of course they let him get away with it because he is the evil king.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a documentary. I don't know if you've seen it, Jake, on HBO about the Celtics. About Danny Ainge was the bad guy, right?
Right.
And he said Auerbach said to him, I let Parrish, McHale, and Bird play too long. I should have gotten rid of them and gotten something in return for them.
Right.
And we're in the position we are now because of that. And Ainge didn't let that happen with Garnett, Pierce.
Right. Ainge was, he knew it's you make friends in this organization, but he knew
but
it's a business.
This particular shady deal, is so transparent. There's something wrong. Everybody's saying there's something wrong here. How are they going to let him get away with this? The NBA's got to step in. This is like pulling a fraudulent act and getting away with it.
Well, they did that. I think it was back in the day. Not back in the day, but several years ago. There was a trade that was made with the Clippers. I think it was
right. Paul George.
Paul George.
Yep.
And they called it off because they were like, we're not going to let that happen. But here it's like, how do you not look at Dallas and go, what are you guys doing?
James.
Right.
It's because of James. There's no doubt about it. He's at the root of all of these problems.
Yeah, there's certainly something to it.
I'm surprised the NBA didn't somehow. I mean, I'm not going to
step in.
Yeah, or step in there, and then I mean, you see when the Lakers played the Celtics in that fairly meaningless midseason game after Doncic had been traded.
Yep.
Tickets were insane. They were going for 1,000 get in, and
right.
and I figured NBA Finals if it's Celtics Lakers, that was going to be the biggest moneymaker for the league in a while.
I certainly had it written all over it.
Unfortunately,
that's for sure.
Luckily, it didn't work out.
Fortunately, they couldn't get out of the first round.
Right.
All right, guys, listen up. Just wanted to bring that up, and I still feel the same way about Cora.
Yeah.
The Red Sox have this knack, this unfortunate knack for underperforming. I don't know why.
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. It's like it feels like when their best pitcher's pitching, they don't get the run support, similar to when Sale was here. Although, Crochet hasn't looked like himself in terms of control, but he certainly pitched well enough to have 4 or 5 wins at this point.
He should.
Yeah, it's the screwy games that they lose.
And then when they're making errors, they're not putting the bat on the ball. It just seems to be an issue. But
well, it's still early. It's only 17-16, but they've had a weak schedule so far. They have had a weak schedule so far. They haven't played much iron yet.
We'll see.
But
we'll
to
see.
lose the last couple of games, they're just something off again with this team. But will they meld together? Well, we'll see. We're still early in May. But
well, Tristan Casas is probably done for the season. So
I'll tell you what. I never wish anything bad against a player
right?
or Casas.
No, I know.
But it could be a blessing in disguise, so to speak.
All right.
Because he wasn't doing anything. He was so unsure at the plate.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. All these check swings, right there.
There's the injury. Check swing and little bounce back and
so undecided at the plate.
Yeah. All right, Moose. We're up against it.
You got it.
So I'll talk to you. We'll see you next week.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, we're gonna take our last break, and then we'll come back and we'll jump into the Patriots, get Jake's take on their draft, maybe cover a little bit of the Belichick interview that happened last weekend. His new book coming out. We'll be back right after these messages.
ON Radio.
They can diagnose and repair just about anything at State Line Service. From tires and alignments and front-end work on all makes of cars and trucks up to 1 ton to smaller items like brakes, starters, struts, exhausts, radiators, timing belts, and high-speed balance. State Line Service is a third-generation family-owned business, up to date with the latest technology. They believe in clear, honest communication with their clients. No double talk, no pressure. State Line Service, 1209 Social Street, Woonsocket, at the State Line. State Line Service.
Are you looking to beautify your property this spring? Look to A.J. Moran for stonework patios, steps, walkways, plus retaining walls. Are you looking to beautify your home this spring? A.J. Moran can put veneer stone right on your house to have beautiful looking stone. And if that's not what you want, A.J. Moran can rebuild indoor fireplaces with veneer stone. It's real natural stone. Check out what they can do online, ajmoraninc.com. A.J. Moran.
If you're celebrating a major event, regardless of the reason, Michael's Meats of Cumberland can elevate your next meal from ordinary to extraordinary with meats so good your guests will ask you where you got them. Tell them Michael's Meats. Michael's Meats is in the Walgreens parking lot on Mendon Road in Cumberland, just north of the Ciabro Plaza. They're open Monday through Saturday at 9 a.m., making your next meal truly special. Here's this week's specials at Michael's Meats.
And this week at Michael's Meats, their all-white meat chicken salad, $6.99 a pound. I'm a huge chicken salad fan, so I don't know about you, but I might have to go check that out myself. I can't get enough of it. So, welcome back to the Cheap Seats with Pat and Kevin. Thanks, Moose, for the call, as usual. So we're going to dive in. Patriots draft. We had Tyler Heatu, who he covers the Patriots for the Sun Chronicle. He's out of Attleboro. So we had him on air after the first. Well, we were on Saturday, so after the first 3 rounds, I think, right? First, second, third. We kind of discussed their picks and whatnot. So I think everyone knew they were going to take Campbell from LSU with that 4 pick, unless something crazy happened. And even then, I don't know. If Cotter had slid or Hunter had slid, maybe they would have traded back because someone probably would have wanted to come up. But they had. I think the big steal for them is the running back from Ohio State, Trayvon
Henderson.
Yeah.
I think, so funny. When I saw that, so
And
Quinshon.
you have a good take on this because I saw it on your feed.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, yep. All right. That's exactly what I was getting at. Quinshon Junkins was drafted before by the Browns. I think that was like pick 33. It was the first pick of the second round.
Yep.
He was picked 33rd. Trevion Henderson was picked 38 by the Patriots. Junkins was picked by the Browns. Henderson was picked by the Patriots. You go back to 2017, I believe it was, or 2018. It was one of those 2 years. I forget exactly which year. But
When they took Chubb, it was
When the Patriots selected Sony Michel 32, and then Nick Chubb was selected 37 or 36 by the Browns. So same exact 2 teams swapped. Where, in my opinion, Chubb was obviously the at least 2 players from Georgia,
right?
Michelle and Chubb, and Chubb was obviously at least on paper the way better running back. Same thing happened at this year. I think Henderson, both quality backs, but Henderson to do everything.
A little bit more dynamic.
Right, more
Yeah, I
dynamic,
agree.
and I think history repeats itself, but this time, hopefully, Patriots got the better deal where they,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, too, because Wolf came out and basically, had a little bit of a conversation about how that pick, there was a lot of back and forth, and there was some disagreements on who they might take and who they shouldn't,
Right.
And ultimately, they went with Trevion, and he was like, but that's how, I think you grow as an organization and in terms of working with each other and whatnot. So it'd be interesting to see if it ever comes out on like which side of that pick, or maybe I think they interviewed him and he said he didn't think the Patriots were even on the radar. Like
Henderson.
Yeah, so it was a surprise for him. So maybe.
Right.
Maybe they were looking at the other running back, and he went. So they
possibly
it could, who knows.
So this is where, and I went to the Patriots post draft party with Elliot Wolf, Mike Vrabel spoke, Cameron Williams, who's exactly funny enough, he's an Easton guy, played at Ohio State. I'm from Easton, so and Mike Vrabel lived in Easton, so they had Mike Vrabel when he was coaching at Ohio State recruited Cameron Williams, and he's the director of college scouting for the Patriots. He spoke about how, and Wolf spoke about it too, how the room, there's, you see it on when they pan to the draft room, and there's some disagreement in there. There's some people who are like hammering the table for one guy. There's some others who are, and that's where I'm like, we had last year where Ladd McConkey was not drafted by the Patriots, and the Patriots selected Jalen Polk. I still am not writing off Polk.
Right.
But you look at, we picked Henderson.
Best hands in the NFL, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, self-proclaimed. And so it's that one's going to be tough. But like you look at it this year, you don't want history to repeat itself, especially a year after when we already have a short leash as far as the draft value goes and who we're getting for draft, especially at the premium position.
It's going to be scrutinized
Right.
for sure too.
So you see Henderson get drafted. The pick after and the pick before, they allegedly were in on the Jonah, the Arizona tackle, who was picked by the Dolphins, a pick ahead. So maybe they would have picked him if they didn't pick Henderson. And then the pick after them was Luther Burden, who had been projected up until, he didn't have the best season at Missouri, but he was projected a top 10 pick up until the last month of the draft process. He kind of had a underwhelming draft process, but you would hate to see Burden or this guy who went to the Dolphins, this tackle, just go off and then. I mean, I'm still confident in Henderson, but it's like PTSD from the picks we've had recently.
Yeah, I am glad that they kind of, and I thought it was going to happen because they kind of went all in on the defensive side in the free agent market,
right?
And then come the draft, they kind of solidified the offensive side. Like we're going to take offensive players and maybe throw in a kicker.
Yeah. Actually,
from the U.
I like that pick. That's obviously Andres Borregales. Shout
now,
out to him.
The only question I have with the last two picks was
those made no sense.
Is
the long snapper,
and even the
cornerback.
The cornerback. Well, yeah, the kid from Memphis, right?
Kobe Minor, who I don't even think was a starter.
They said he was
starter.
like, at the combine, he was like low grades and everything.
They said, well, for
maybe
him,
they just drafted him because he is the true Mr. Irrelevant.
Right? Yeah, they put actually a label on the Mr. Irrelevant. I didn't get, so you could kind of it was kind of tracking that way. They had a few picks. There were 2 picks in the 3rd round, traded 1 down, and they kept trading down. And it's like you're running out of real estate. You have now the 251st and 257.
Yeah, so it's like.
And they got the long snapper, they released Cardona, which
made sense from a financial standpoint.
Right. And then they picked Kobe Minor. I reviewed, there's a draft guide by Dane Brugler, who's from The Athletic.
Yeah.
He ranks like thousands of players, and he ranks over like 150 cornerbacks. 150. So that includes players from the community, any college, you name it.
Yeah, CCRI.
Right.
We're in the Rhode Island area, so
right.
Community College, Rhode Island.
Exactly.
We got this blue chip player who's just
who could make
there
it.
He is. He's 149 in minors.
I went to Stonehill, and they were D2 up until 2 or 3 years ago. There were players from Stonehill on the list, just to give you another example. But Kobe Minor, he was ranked. For reference, there were 40 cornerbacks drafted. Kobe Minor on Dane Brugler's list was listed 127th. So, and the long snapper was the 5th best long snapper on his list out of 10 that he ranked. So,
was there any other long snapper drafted?
I don't think so, but there was actually a Rhode Island shout out. There was the URI long snapper, Diano Canastri or something.
Sure.
He got invited to the Jets minicamp, so that's good.
Yeah, and that's typically what you see these guys. They end up being like Diossi's kid. Steve Diossi's kid was a long snapper for the Giants. I mean,
right.
I think I don't. He was like an undrafted guy, which makes sense, right? It's such a niche, which is good because there's value to it for you. It's like I can snap the ball and I'm pretty accurate, and it's like all right.
It was funny.
Not a bad gig.
Right. Yeah. No. It's not bad. It was funny listening to Cameron Williams, the director of college scouting, talk about Julian Ashby, the Vanderbilt long snapper, because they show a highlight tape of a long snapper.
Right.
And then they talk about the area scouts. One of my buddies, he's an area scout, Matt Evans, who played for UNH. And they talk about what the area scouts look at. And on a kicker, they listen to the sound of the kick.
Right.
Like the actual sound rather than looking at, like a 50-yard field goal.
Yeah, just looking for he's making solid contact, right?
Exactly. So it's like almost like a barrel rate for baseball.
Sure.
The long snapper, they listen to the velocity of the snap, which is that's got to be
tight spiral.
Right. Punter, they literally have a stopwatch to time
release
from when it leaves your hand to when it hits your foot, and then hang time, obviously. But it's just. But then they showed clips of the Vanderbilt long snapper, and it was basically he was down on coverage. He made a few coverage plays down to inside the 20.
Yeah.
So I guess he's a Vrabel,
Yeah, he gets down there. He's not just snapping the ball and hanging out.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, all in all, I thought they had a good draft. I think most of the people I've seen out there graded them like B to B plus. Certainly no standout players. I think Campbell. I think he'll turn into be the real deal. And I don't really put a lot of stake in the whole arm length thing.
Yeah.
But Shador Sanders obviously drops significantly. I'd like to hear the real true story about that whole thing, and I'd really want to know why. I'd really like to hear the Browns say why they didn't take him when they took Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
And then you take they got like 6 quarterbacks on their roster now.
They've 6. Either it's a funny group that they
Yeah.
have.
So
Joe Flacco's in there, Kenny Pickett. It's
who they traded. They
Right.
traded to get him, and then they still have Watson.
Yeah.
And then now they got these 2 draft picks. So it's like
it's an
who knows what's going to happen.
It's a motley group. My take on Shador is I didn't think he was good enough I didn't understand why he was top 10 caliber.
No, I didn't.
Based on tape.
Certainly, he's an athlete. He's certainly an athlete.
Right. He has the genes.
And I said it when last week that his highlight reel is basically Travis Hunter's highlight reel.
Exactly.
He's throwing off his back foot, getting hit, underthrown by 20 yards, but Travis Hunter comes back on the ball, makes a play, and takes it 60 yards, right? So it's like...
I think he got bailed out a lot by Travis Hunter. He was playing in the Big 12 as well, which isn't like... That's why we were talking before. It's like, maybe transfer for a year, go to a Power 5, prove that you can do it at that level.
Right. Like we mentioned the running back from Arizona State.
Scatterbo.
Who started at like Sacramento State, moved up to I want to say Utah State, but I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. And then Arizona State.
Right.
So it's like this trajectory is to get to the better levels as opposed to like, no, I get it. He came from Jackson State.
Jackson
State University.
Yeah, Jackson. Yeah.
Right.
Where
Dion. Yeah, and then follows his dad to Colorado, which is certainly a step up, but then it turns into the Dion show. Essentially what I think ended up happening.
I do think, there was a lot of, I think it was, you look at the player, you say, I don't, like, there were quotes throughout the process that there's only one, and I'm going to, hammer the table for you, Miami, Cam Ward. There was only one first-round grade in this whole draft, and next year is really the draft where QBs are going to be aplenty.
Cam Ward, where did he play?
University of Miami, of course. Yeah, the U.
And that's what they say. You see the clips that are out there of them working out.
Right.
And Shador's like, hey, we should get together and do like record a song. And he's like, I don't do that.
Yeah,
I'm here to play football.
Yeah.
He's like, come on, don't you do anything for fun? He's like, I play football.
Right.
That's what I do. So,
I love his
the
mindset,
difference in the personalities, and that carries over. And for him, it's like, it's all about me.
Right.
And I think that's, a lot of the people took that. And I'm sure he went in to the Giants interview, and you got Dayball who's in there, and I saw the clip, and I mentioned it last week. I saw the clip where he had what's his name from the Patriots? I should
Scout or
no quarterback.
Oh,
no.
Oh, Drake May. Yeah.
In before the draft,
Yeah.
and he's
Oh, and he's
hey,
going
here's a formation. Here, what do you see here? What do you call in? And he's going through a thing. He probably asked you door, and he's like, I'm winging it. Like,
I don't care.
What do you mean?
Right.
I don't know what that is. Like, short, so.
So I do think, I think as a player, I don't think he does. I was saying third, fourth round for him. I just didn't think he was that good. And then you add the headache in.
Yeah.
I mean, he was getting the first round hype, and that's probably where teams were like, "Ooh, do we do it?"
Yeah, I thought for sure
Jersey
fifth round came up. I'm like, someone's going to take a flyer. I didn't think it was going to be the Browns after they drafted the QB already, and and then given the other stuff. But so we'll see how it all plays out. We had a couple minutes left.
Yeah, let's hit on the hot topic.
Is that the Belichick, right?
Yeah.
So listen, I have the utmost respect for obviously growing up around here, 20 years, Super Bowls, parades, the whole 9 yards. I bought into the whole, just do your job and all that stuff. But he seems to have gone off kind of like the deep end a little bit with this,
Right.
Whatever it is. I mean, he seems to have his girlfriend here who's now kind of running the show. And the interview, now he hasn't changed much outside of like
right.
some of the picture stuff. But it's funny because the interview, which I forget what it's on. It's on like CBS or something. But there's one question where they ask him about like the pictures are surfacing. Clearly you weren't, when you were coaching, you had nothing. You weren't on social media, the Snap Face or whatever, all that stuff. And he was like almost like a deer in headlights.
Right.
He's like, well, I mean, I don't follow it. Like, so basically, like, it's her.
Right.
She's posting. She's supposedly like the CEO of Belichick Productions, if that is. I don't know if I was trying to do a deep dive to see if it's even like a real thing. I haven't quite gotten there yet, but
Right.
I know they had a deal in place for UNC to do the Netflix
Hard Knocks.
or it was Netflix or maybe it was HBO doing it, but essentially the college version of Hard Knocks.
Right.
And they basically ixnayed it because of her.
Yeah.
The book comes out, which I pre-ordered it, so it'll be here when I get back from Orlando next the week after next. So just to read it, to see what it says. But there's some questions in there about like he completely like leaves out the crafts. Like, not one mention of it, which is certainly speaks to the end of the relationship and how it all played out. But what's your take on the where things are at with him and this girl who's 50 years younger than him?
I think it's
at least, right
40,
around there.
48 years younger, I think at least. It's definitely like watching a car wreck. It seems just at first I was like, okay, this is funny. Then I saw it a little more, and I'm like, oh, now they're posing together. This is a little.
That was
odd.
a little odd.
Yeah.
The Instagram pictures of him like dressed up as like a. It's weird. And then, and the guy, and it's funny because in the interview, the guy's like, "You're not like a yoga Pilates guy, but you're on the beach and you have her up on your feet and she's doing basically and he's just like, I don't know.
I really think. In a way, and the thing is, he's really sharp still with all the football stuff.
Oh yeah,
I think he's just a savant when it comes to football, and anything else, he doesn't have he's completely clueless. I don't think he knows.
Yeah, he's like
not that he's like
quirky outside of the locker room, in the office, in the field.
I don't think he realizes that dating someone 50 years younger is a little bit.
And then there's just like this whole backstory about her.
Yeah, she's apparently going
She dated a CEO of I think a healthcare company, and
who was speaking very highly of her too.
Yeah, but she owns like, and shortly after they got together, all of a sudden she has like a $6 million real estate portfolio. Like, there's questions about her family. Like her mom lives down like either Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard, but
some
owns
interesting
like
stories
some
there.
interesting business down there,
Right.
and So it's definitely interesting. I did actually hear a story, and we'll wrap this up. Somebody called into another show, and it said, "Hey, listen, my wife was at Bridgewater State when she was there and was a tutor in philosophy. So the book that supposedly she put up, where he autographed the philosophy book, he basically said that's not even a book that they use in the school. So there's something's off. Which is why I guess in that interview when he's like, can we talk about how you met? And she's like, we're not talking about that, right? So certainly some stuff out there that's a lot of unknowns. And given her at least the fact that she's done this, it's not her first older
track record,
boyfriend, that's well off.
Things are
so
with a smoke there's fire, so it's interesting.
We'll end on that note. Want to thank Jake Marcus.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
For coming in. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Kevin, hopefully things are going well down in Connecticut. He'll be back probably the week after next. I'm away next week. We'll have a show on. It'll probably be pre-recorded introduction, and then we'll put up. I think we're gonna play the most recent cut when we had Cumberland native Mike Marion, who just authored a new book. So we'll get that out, and Appreciate your time. Remember, Rhode Island FC tonight, inaugural game at the Centerville Bank Stadium in Pawtucket. If you have tickets, get there early. Parking lots open at 1. Stadium gates open at 2. Game kicks off at 4. Thank you and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Broadcasting live and local daily from the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio at the corner of Park Avenue and Kennedy